Why hello my friends and welcome back to another episode of the Kenwood Kids Club, coming to you from the Mr. Baker's Cakes kitchen. Now, did you know that today is Devil's Food Cake Day? I'm going to be honest with you, up until about 4 days ago, neither did I. But one thing I do not need is an excuse to make one of these truly delicious moist and chocolatey cakes. They are absolutely amazing. If you've never made one before, then it's like the chocolate cake of your dreams. Now, we've made chocolate cakes here in the Kenwood Kids Club before, but Devil's Food Cake is a little bit more complicated than your typical chocolate cake, but it's still pretty simple, so don't panic. And anyway, I'm going to take you through all of the steps that you need to all of the steps that you need to follow to make one right now. So if you haven't already, do head down to the link in the video description where you will find the full list of ingredients that you need to be able to bake along with me today. And while you're there, why not click the link that will take you straight to the Kenwood Kids Club website so you can get all signed up as a member as well. You even get your own membership card. And in fact, if it's your first time watching one of our videos here in the Kenwood Kids Club, why don't you click on that big red subscribe button before you go as well? That way you'll never miss another one of our videos. But anyway, I've got all my ingredients here ready to go. Again, you'll find the full list of them down in the video description. I think we'd better get cracking, don't you? One of the things that sets this cake mix apart from other more typical chocolate cakes is the first step that we're going to do, and that is to dissolve some cocoa powder and some soft dark brown sugar into a jug of boiling water. Now, this is water fresh from the kettle, so I haven't done anything special to it. I just boiled the kettle and then measured out 250 millilitres, and into that I'm going in with my dark soft brown sugar, which regular viewers will know I'm a big fan of, and then some cocoa powder. Now, you do want to make sure it's proper cocoa powder, not hot chocolate powder, because hot chocolate powder doesn't have as much flavour to it. It's more milk than chocolate. Cocoa powder is pure, intense chocolatey flavour. And then just using a hand whisk, I'm going to mix all of this together until it's nice and smooth. It won't take very long. Now, you might be tempted to drink this because it does just smell really amazingly chocolatey, but I promise you it'll be even better in your cake. So do try and resist the temptation. And then once you can't see any more lumps of sugar or floating bits of cocoa powder, we're going to set this aside for now. And this next bit actually is quite normal for making a cake because we're going to cream together some butter and some sugar using our stand mixer. Now, of course, if you don't have a stand mixer, like I always say, you can just do this in a large bowl with a wooden spoon. But if you do have one of these, it makes it a lot easier for you. So into that bowl, I'm going to go in with my butter, which is at room temperature, so it's nice and soft, and some normal white caster sugar. So we've got two different types of sugar in this recipe. Then I've got my favourite creaming beater attachment. And then I'm just going to run this until the mixture is nice and smooth and pale in colour. Now, while it's doing that, we're going to do the next step, which is to combine all of our dry ingredients. So I've got a large metal sieve here and I've popped it over another bowl. And in there I'm going to add my flour, which is plain flour. That's the one with no raising agent, and that's because we're actually using two today that we're going to add to it. I've got some bicarbonate of soda and I've got some baking powder. So I'm going to pop both of those in there, and then I'm just going to sieve that into the bowl. The reason why I'm doing that is it just means that baking powder and that It might be easier for you to hear me if I do that. The reason why I'm sieving that into this bowl is it just means that baking powder and that bicarbonate of soda is going to be nice and mixed throughout that flour. Now, hopefully, your butter and sugar mixture is now looking something like mine. Can you see how pale it's gone? So now what I'm going to do is pop the bowl back on here, and then I'm going to turn it on a very low speed. And I'm going to start by adding in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now, as always, I'm using this lovely one here. It's from a company called Little Pod. And this is vanilla extract, not vanilla essence. extract tastes a lot better. So 2 teaspoons. Just enough, look. Don't worry, I had another bottle just in case. And then also in there, I'm going to start adding my eggs, and I'm going to add them one at a time. Now, as you know, I like to crack my eggs into a separate bowl first, just in case I get any shell in there. It's a lot easier to pick shell out of this bowl than it is that one. No shell so far. And then I'm not even going to mix this up today, I'm just going to go straight into there, and that can start mixing while I crack my other egg. If you want to, you can turn the speed up a little bit between each egg just to help that mixture come together. And then I'm going to turn it back down again to add that second egg. Now while we're mixing on that low speed, I'm going to start adding in my flour, and I'm just going to add it in a little bit at a time. That will help make sure the mixture doesn't curdle or kind of separates, and just how everything's come together nice and smoothly. You don't want to be too slow though, because as we've talked about before, if you mix it once the flour's in there for too long, it can make your cake go quite dense, and we don't want that to happen. So as soon as that bit of flour has mixed in, go in with the next bit. Once all of your flour is added, you can grab your chocolatey sugary mixture back that we did right at the beginning, and then we're just going to slowly pour this into the bowl as well. Again, that mix is still running on that low speed, and that's just going to help make sure that everything gets really nice and incorporated or well mixed. There we go. And then just to finish things off, I'm going to increase the speed very slightly, just for a few seconds. And there we go. That is our cake mix. Now there's probably going to be some flour and other things caught on the beater here, so we're going to give that a quick scrape. And then I'm going to take off the bowl and then use my spatula just to give everything one final mix around, just to make sure everything is fully mixed together. We don't have any bits where there's any flour caught or any butter that hasn't mixed in properly. I have to say, this is looking pretty good. Now the last thing we need to do is divide this mixture between 2 8-inch cake tins. Now I'm using deep tins like this, but actually they don't need to be super deep. You can get away with just normal kind of Victoria sponge tins if that's what you have. And all I've done is just sprayed them with a little cake release spray, and I've popped some greaseproof paper on the bottom there. You can also butter them, so just get some room temperature softened butter and just rub it around the sides. Anything that's going to help your cake not to stick. And then we want to divide our cake mix equally between both of these. Now I say it every time, if you want to be really accurate, you can measure these, you can weigh them to check that each one has about the same. But to be honest, I don't often do that. As long as they're roughly equal, it will be absolutely fine. Now I'm going to give these a little tap just to make sure there's no air bubbles. And then these need to go into a preheated oven at 180 degrees, which is 160 degrees fan, gas mark 4, for around about half an hour. You're looking for them to be risen and they should be springy to the touch. Again, regular viewers will know that I also sometimes like to hold my cakes up to my ear to see if I can still hear them bubbling, but you might want to get your adult to do that bit for you because they will be very hot. So I'm going to go and pop these in the oven, and then we'll come back and we'll make our deliciously rich and luxurious chocolate frosting. I'll see you in a second. Okay, so my cakes are in the oven and now it is time to make this delicious chocolate frosting. Now again, it's a little bit different than the way we normally do things. It's almost a bit like ganache, but not quite, for those of you who have watched our previous videos where we've made ganache. If you haven't, you probably should, because ganache is amazing. But anyway, to make this recipe, what you're going to need is some water, some more of that yummy dark brown sugar, and some butter. And what we're going to do, didn't want to come out, did he? What we're going to do is just heat this in a saucepan over a low heat until everything is melted and it's started to bubble. So after a few minutes, you should find that your mixture starts to bubble and everything should be completely melted. And I'll be honest, it smells so yummy because just butter and sugar together just smells great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my dark chocolate into the bowl of my stand mixer. Now I normally do this using bars of chocolate that I've chopped up, but it occurred to me it would be a lot easier to use chocolate chips. So you can do either. The recipe says to use chopped up chocolate, but chocolate chips will work probably even better and you don't have to chop. And then what I'm going to do is pour this hot buttery sugary mixture over that chocolate, and then I'm just going to leave it to stand for about 1 minute. Now of course, if you're doing this in a mixer, you will need to use a heat-proof bowl. Obviously I have a glass bowl here. Sometimes the Kenwood mixers come with metal bowls, but if your mixer comes with a plastic bowl, you will need to make sure that it's able to have hot things put in it. Otherwise, of course, again, like always, you can just do this in a bowl with a whisk. It's really up to you. But anyway, 1 minute, and what will happen is that hot mixture from the pan will start to melt that chocolate down, and then when it's done that, I'm going to grab my whisk attachment this time and just whisk everything together until it's nice and smooth and glossy, but you'll see that in a second. By the time you've done this, hopefully your cakes will be ready to come out of the oven, and what I'd like you to do with those is leave them to cool down in the tin for about 10 minutes or so. Devil's food cake can be quite a soft and delicate cake, and so if you try and turn it out too early, what could happen is the cake could crumble a little bit. But by leaving it in the tin for those 10 or so minutes, everything will bond together and it'll be a little bit stronger, and then you can just turn it out onto your cooling rack, and you just need to leave it to cool down completely until it's at room temperature. So, let's get this frosting made, and then I'll need to go and check on my cakes. So I'm just turning on the whisk on a low speed, and do make sure it's a low speed because this is still fairly warm and we don't want it splashing on us at all. And then again, hopefully the heat from that mixture will have melted that chocolate enough so that as I mix, any small leftover bits that haven't melted will melt, and I should end up with a nice, smooth and glossy chocolatey frosting. And when you're done, you should end up with something that looks like this. Now, of course, this is still far too runny to put on a cake as it is at the moment, but as it cools down, it will start to thicken up. So what I'd like you to do, you're going to take your cakes out of the oven and you're going to leave them to cool. You're also going to leave your frosting to cool, but every kind of 10 to 15 minutes, I just want you to come back in to your kitchen, turn the mixer back on, and just give it another quick whisk just to make sure it's nice and smooth and spreadable for when we come to decorate our cake. If you forget, it's not the end of the world, but it will be a lot easier to work with if you do whisk it regularly. That's why I like to do it in my stand mixer, because I can just turn it on for a few seconds and then turn it off and walk away again. If you're doing it in a bowl with a normal whisk, that's fine too. Just give it a quick whisk and then pop it to the side again until you're ready to use it. So I'm going to go and check on my cakes. I'm going to leave everything to cool, and then I will see you when we're ready to decorate our cake. So it's been a few hours and my cakes are cool, my frosting has cooled, and everything is ready to be assembled together. Now you may find that as you're whisking your frosting, it goes a bit paler in colour. That's completely normal, don't panic. What will happen is you're whisking air into the frosting, which gets trapped and makes it a bit paler, but as you leave it on the cake, it will gradually get darker and go back to that nice glossy dark frosting that we had near the beginning again. So as I say, don't panic. Mine now looks like this, and hopefully yours does too. So all I'm going to do is grab my spatula, just just whiz around the edge of the bowl just to make sure everything is nice and mixed. And then it's time for the fun bit. What I'm going to do first is place one of these cakes onto my serving plate, and I'm actually just using a normal plate. And I'm going to place this one the right way up, and then I'm just going to take a really generous blob of my frosting and place it on top, just like that. And then I'm just going to use an offset spatula like this one here to just spread that around to cover the top of the cake. This will end up being the filling in the middle. It doesn't need to be neat, by the way. This definitely isn't a pretty cake, it's all about the taste. So there we go. And then it's simply a case of taking the other cake. This one I'm going to do upside down, and I'm just going to place it on top like that. And then I grab the rest of my frosting. We're just going to spread this all over the top and the sides of the cake. Again, I say this almost every week, but I really wish you could smell what I can smell right now, because it's just so chocolatey and yummy, and I really can't wait to try this. So again, just like we did for the filling, we're just spreading it around. Try and get it roughly even, because when we work it down the sides, we want to have enough for all of the sides. And then once you've got the top covered, you can just grab all the extra that's oozed out the sides and just spread it around the cake. Now this bit does get easier with practice. I know I'm going very fast, so I'll try and turn it around so you can see a bit better. But what I'm doing is I'm just spreading backwards and forwards in both directions with my spatula. And what that does is it just spreads it out over the whole cake. If you find you're running a bit short, just grab a bit more off the top. And again, you just want to make sure that you've got an even covering over the whole thing. And when it comes to the kind of the finishing touches or the decorations, it's really up to you. You can put some sprinkles on this, you could put some cake decorations on it. What I like to do is just grab my spatula one more time, and I like to go around the outside and make that nice and neat. And in fact, you've seen me use them before, but if you have any sort of cake decorating tools at home, you can use those as well to just whiz around the side and give yourself a nice, neat finish. But again, you don't have to, it doesn't need to be pretty. And then with anything that's left over on the top, I just like to swirl backwards and forwards just to give it a nice rustic finish. But essentially, there you go. That is how to make a devil's food cake. Perfect for today, which is apparently Devil's Food Cake Day. As I say, if you leave this to stand for a while, what you'll find will happen is your frosting will kind of relax a little bit, it will get a little bit softer, it will go darker in colour, and it will give you that nice glossy finish or kind of shininess that you're looking for on a Devil's Food Cake. So what I tend to do now is I'll just leave this for a few hours to let my frosting kind of settle up, and then you can serve it straight away. As you know, normally in these Kenwood Kids Club videos, I do like to taste the thing that we have made together. But when it comes to something like a full cake like this, where possible, I do like to make sure they don't go to waste. And so this one will get rehomed by being given to one of my family members or a neighbour or something. So you'll just have to make one of your own and find out what it tastes like yourself. Again, if you do want to have a go at my Devil's Food Cake, do head down to the video description where you will find the full ingredient list, and you'll also find a link there to take you to the Kenwood Kids Club website where you'll also find the full recipe method as well. While you're there, if you haven't already signed up as a member, don't forget to do that too. Your membership card will be with you very quickly. And if you do have a go at this Devil's Food Cake recipe, don't forget to take a picture and upload it to the Kenwood Kids Club website so that you can enter our Star Baker of the Month competition. Yes, every single month we choose one person as our Star Baker of the Month, and they receive a very special Kenwood Kids Club goodie bag and their very own Kenwood mixer as well. It really is an amazing prize. So have a go at this recipe, or in fact any of the recipes here on YouTube or over on our website, and get your entry in for this month's Star Baker of the Month competition. I do hope you enjoyed finding out how to make a Devil's Food Cake in time for Devil's Food Cake Day. And if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up down below. And if you're not already subscribed, you can do that now too by hitting the big red subscribe button. I will be back at the same time next week with another very delicious recipe, which I am very excited about, I have to say. But until then, I do hope you are staying safe and well, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.